At the British Shooting Show in 2024, I got speaking to one of the co-founders of Maven Optics on the Highland Outdoors stand, and I asked him which of the Maven range would he recommend for a short 223 rifle that was going to be used for hunting and was equally going to be at home on the range. And without hesitation, he suggested to me the Maven RS1.2. Fast forward 6 months later, I had one of these arrive on the post from Highland Outdoors for a long-term review. Now, those of you that subscribe to the channel will have already seen that this has been featured on my Bergara B14 Stoke review, which was the rifle that I was using it on. That rifle had to go back under warranty for some testing. And during that process of me trying to figure out whether it was the rifle potentially that was causing issues or if it was the scope, because they were both new to me at the time, this did have a little bit of time on my 308 match rifle where I did some testing to make sure that this wasn't the problem. And I can confirm that this wasn't the problem. It was actually, in fact, the rail which was adjoining this to the rifle that was causing the problems. And the rifle had no issues either. So moving on from that, let's talk about the features of the Maven RS1.2. Starting at the back, we have a fast focus rubberized eyepiece, which is 43 millimeters, in diameter, and has adjustment for plus or minus 2 on the diopter. Going forward to that, we have the magnification ring, which, as per the RS4, is a similar design. Nice aggressive knurling on the ring, which gives you good grip, whether you be gloved or ungloved hand, cold or hot. And it also has this small throw lever on the top, which can also have a larger throw lever mounted to it, which is an optional extra available on Maven's website. The magnification range is 2.5 to 15, which, as with a lot of these lower magnification optics, gives a really, really flexible eye box that you can get a nice crisp picture from it behind really quickly. And it really does, especially down in that lower sort of 2.5 to 8. You bring it up quickly in front of your eye and you get a clear image every single time. You're not trying to hunt around for that eye box. Going above sort of 10 up to certainly 13, 14 and 15 on this scope, it does become a little bit more fussy, but not that I would describe this scope as fussy. It just obviously gets a tighter eye box and you do have to spend a little bit more time setting your rifle up to make sure that you can get that perfect sight picture every time you put your face down on the stock of your rifle. But certainly in the lower magnification range, there is absolutely no problems getting behind the scope and getting a clear sight picture through it. Coming forward of that, you have the 30mm main tube, in which is housed one of 3 reticle options. You have 2 in the MOA and 1 in mil. They are the MOA2, the SHR-W and the SHR mil. This one here is the SHR mil, which features a floating center dot, which has then a small space around it out to a 0.5 mil stadia line. They then continue 0.5 mils all the way out to 5 mil, which then goes to a 7.5 mil and a 10 mil stadia line. Now, it only has one 0.5 mil stadia line on the whole underside of the reticle, so above the center dot. But I think that is just a nod to the fact that this rifle is probably going to be used on closer range engagements, on smaller caliber rifles, which you're zeroing inside 50 to 100 meters. So the need for a hold under is going to be less so on those sorts of rifles. Now, coming forward to the housing for the turrets, which is one point that I wanted to raise and make sure that people were aware of before they buy this scope. When I originally bought this scope, I bought a tier 1 monomount for it to be mounted in. And the issue that I've had is where the scope housing is quite large, or the turret housing is quite large, the actual, I think it was a medium monomount that I had, didn't have enough room for the bar to clear underneath here. It was touching, and therefore it was, when I was trying to tighten it down, the rings were being held up by the scope and they weren't able to tighten down. So that is one thing to be aware of. If you're going to be mounting this in a monomount, get a higher monomount than you think you need. but my ultimate recommendation would be use a two-piece mount, particularly if you are putting it in sort of a softer recoiling centre-fire rifle or a rim-fire rifle, because you don't need that extra rigidity that you get from the monomount. So certainly the two-piece tier 1 rings that I've used have been more than good enough. And you can get them a little bit lower, so it can sit a bit more flush to your bore line if that's what you want. Certainly, for the purposes that I was testing it up, I wanted to get it as low as possible in the first place. So moving on to the elevation turret. Now, the elevation turret is adjustable in 0.1mm clicks. In the MOA version, it is quarter MOA clicks. It has a total of 10mm per rotation for a grand total of 29mm of elevation, and that is 100 MOA of elevation on the on the MOA turret, which probably explains the size of the turret housing in the first place, giving it that large amount of adjustment for what is a relatively small low power scope. The windage turret is capped, as you can see. Nice metal cap, nice knurling on it, lovely picture of the Maven logo, but underneath it is a full ballistic turret, which has markings on it left and right up to 5mm for the windage. There is a greater adjustment of the windage up to 20.3mm, but it is only up to 5 that is marked on there. Both of these are resettable to 0. You simply undo this top cap here, lift off the main body of the turret, replace it in line with the 0, and then screw the cap back down again. Now, the elevation turret features a mechanical 0 stop that is common across the Maven range. You simply dial to the point that you wish to 0 at, undo the top of the turret, lift the turret body off, and you'll see a metal ring. Undo the grab screws on that metal ring, drop it down, rotate it clockwise until the metal pins touch, fasten up the grab screws, replace your turret on 0, and tighten down the top cap, and you are good to go with your 0 stop. The clicks themselves on the turret are relatively quiet. Again, probably a nod to more of a hunting orientated scope. They're not an agricultural click, 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 click that you need to be able to hear in competition. They are of the softer side so that you can adjust them potentially without your prey hearing you. But they are still solid, and they do give good feedback in the hand, and they are audible enough that you can hear them from close to the rifle. They feel a little bit nicer, I think, than on the Maven RS4, and I think that is partly down to the smaller size of the turret. It just gives it that sort of more, it gives you less leverage on the turret, and therefore it feels a little bit more snappy with its response in dialing on the turret. Moving on to the parallax. The parallax is adjustable from 10 all the way up to infinity. And like on the Maven RS4, the one complaint I have is that it's probably a little bit on the stiffer side of adjustment. It's not to say it's incredibly stiff and you wouldn't be able to adjust it if you were wearing gloves or something in the cold, but it is a little bit on the stiffer side, and it does sort of relax over time. But certainly when I got this out of the box, it was one of the first things I did was went to that to see if it was any different, and it wasn't. If anything, it's a little bit more magnified on this, again because it has smaller turrets, so you're not getting the advantage of being able to apply some leverage with a larger turret, but they are perfectly usable. As I said, it comes all the way down to 10, so again making it ideal for even your rimfire rifles or even air rifles potentially if you wanted to. On the outside of the parallax turret is the illumination turret, and on the end of that is the cap to cover the battery compartment. The illumination, unlike the RS4, is only available in red, not red and green, but it does have 10 illumination settings. On the lower end of those illumination settings, it is perfectly usable at dusk at night. On the upper end, it is perfectly usable during the day. Moving forward, it does have a 44mm objective lens, and as the glasses throughout the Maven RS line, it's Japanese glass, really clear, high quality, high contrast glass. I really like the glass in my Maven RS4, and I must say, particularly down again the lower end of the magnifications, the clarity and the contrast in the colour on the RS1.2 is superb. The inside of the objective bell is threaded for an optional extra of a sunshade, and included within the box you do get a neoprene scope cover to cover the entire scope. You do not get any scope caps or anything like that. Now, moving on to the pricing, you can pick up a Maven RS1.2 or any of the Maven range from mavenbuilt.co.uk. Now, this is on their at full price at £1,109.99. Now, using my discount code of JC10, that does bring the scope down to £999 on the nose, making this a sub £1,000 scope with that discount code. Now, there are a few issues on the Maven website at the moment that I've noticed in finding the rifle scopes. Ordinarily, they would be under the menu, where under optics there would be an option for rifle scopes. That seems to have disappeared at the moment, but you can still find the rifle scopes by scrolling all the way to the bottom of the page, and there will be an option there for hunting rifle scopes, where you can then go into rifle scopes or the RS series or the CRS series. Now, the other issue that I've noticed on the website at the moment is that the RS1.2 isn't actually advertised on the page of the rifle scopes, but you can find it by going up to the search bar, typing in RS1.2, and this scope will appear. As for Maven's warranty, it's an unconditional lifetime transferable warranty that covers damage and defects to anything that is mechanical with the scope. I do not believe it covers anything that is cosmetic, or anything that is caused intentionally. Unfortunately, I won't be keeping the Maven RS1.2. It will be going back to Highland Outdoors. It's not because I don't think it's a good scope. I think it is a fantastic scope, and it was ideal for the purpose that I wanted it for. But unfortunately, the rifle that it was on, the Bergara B14 Stoke, has had to be sold because I am making room in my cabinet to hopefully get a lot more rifles in for review on this channel, and something had to go. Either my PRS rifle, which was never going to go, my NRL Hunter rifle, which I've just bought, and I'm really excited to start getting on the NRL Hunter matches. So that wasn't going to go. And obviously the Bergara, which I'd bought with the intention of getting permissions and being able to do a little bit of perhaps training with it, a little bit of hunting, so on and so forth. That hasn't worked out as I intended. So it was the natural option to be the rifle to go. And as such, the scope was going to go back. I did consider, again, asking to keep the scope and put it on my NRL Hunter rifle, but I think the magnification range is just on the too low side. If it had gone up to, say, 18, 20, which would put the sort of 12 to 15 mag range right in the middle of the actual magnification range itself, and you made the reticle usable but not too obstructive, then I might have kept it because it is lighter than the RS4, which I'm going to use instead. But alas, it's not the case, so therefore it will go back. But the RS1.2 would be ideal for those who want a mid-range optic for either, like I said, potentially an air rifle, certainly a rimfire, or a smaller caliber centerfire rifle. Ideal for sort of woodland stalking, any sort of driven hunts or anything like that with the lower magnification range, and that you can still see the reticle and use it. You can't see the finer D10s, but you can certainly still see the main stadia lines. It would be ideal for that sort of use. And of course, it's still usable at the range with the ballistic turrets, which have loads of elevation on them, again, for your smaller calibers or your rimfire and air gun calibers. Thank you for watching this review. If you liked what you've seen and you want to see more, please go and hit that subscribe button down below. Like and comment on the videos, as it does really help drive the algorithm and get these videos seen by as many people as possible. Don't forget, if you want any money off of Maven, use the code JC10 on mavenbuilt.co.uk. But thanks for watching. Take care. Shoot straight.